My guest today is JJ Carrell, retired U.S. border agent, co-host of the Unrestricted Invasion podcast, and author of the book Invaded: The Intentional Destruction of the U.S. Immigration System. We discuss the millions of illegal immigrants surging across the southern border, how this epidemic is crippling American towns and cities, and the potential motivations behind it all. JJ is an expert on the subject of illegal immigration and a canary in a coal mine we should all be paying attention to. Stay tuned. JJ, my brother, back again. One of my favorite people in the whole universe, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks again for having me back on your show. And there's so much to talk about. It just every time, like the last time I was here, like, you know what? Man, I can't imagine it getting worse. Holy God, it is beyond anything that we've ever thought. Like someone asked me, said, when you were coming out of the Border Patrol and your last year of your career, you're under Joe Biden, did you foresee all this? And I said, no. I got out because I knew I couldn't continue to work under that buffoon, and it was unconstitutional what was happening. And I just happened to be in the position where I could retire. And I could have made another jump in my career because I ultimately wanted to run my own station down the border, and that was my next move. But I knew I couldn't stay. But I could never envisioned this level of treason. Never. And now you have the Supreme Court ruling against a state for their state to have sovereignty. It's like we live in an upside down world. And the cities, Chicago, New York, Phoenix, Austin, Texas, Whitewater, Wisconsin, small little towns are now claiming states of emergencies throughout the nation because the infrastructure is crumbling. You allowed in right now under Joe Biden, we're at about 25 million people. 25 million people. That's almost 8% of our population, dude, in the United States of America, you've allowed in. And I'm being very, very conservative with those numbers.
Yeah.
It's tough times.
So, okay, I want to talk about the Supreme Court decision because there's a lot of people who aren't aware of what you're referencing there. Can you go into that a little bit?
Okay, so Texas came out. Now, let me be very upfront. Governor Abbott, he's the governor of Texas. He is a half-assed measured guy. Everything he does is half-assed. If this is 3 years now, this is not like, okay, it's been 3 months and we're getting hammered, let's try to figure something out. No, he's got like 1,000+ miles of the southern border. He does nothing. He just put Constantine, they call it razor wire, but it's called concertina wire. And just imagine when you look at a movie with a jail in the middle of a desert and it has the rows of concertina, and it'll just slice your body up. So he put those in a section called Eagle Pass, Texas, and even more restricted is in a park called Shelby Park. Now, Shelby Park, prior to this, the concertina wire or razor wire, as they like to call it in the media, you had 5,000 to 10,000 people in the U.S. waiting to be arrested under the bridges, okay? And with another 10 to 20,000 on the south side waiting to push up as the hordes of humanity got moved into processing centers in America. So what they did is they put razor wire, concertina wire along this coastline. And Shelby Park's only 47 square miles, 47 square acres. Shut it down. So it works, right? It tells you that walls work. It could be a razor wall, it could be a concrete wall, whatever, it works. So what does our federal government do? They sue the state of Texas to remove the wire because that's not in their mind. This is a federal issue and states can't get involved. So you have a state trying to, even though it's half-assed, trying to maintain state sovereignty and national sovereignty because they're being invaded. The federal government's doing nothing to stop it, and then they sue you to remove what is working. Now, that should pull away all, if you have blinders on or if you have dark glasses, to rip them off and be able to say and see for the first time, oh God, the federal government is doing this on purpose. They don't want any barrier or obstacle to allow millions of more people into America. If Greg Abbott was truly a patriot and a true believer in the Constitution, because it states in the Constitution that he has the right, he's being invaded, he would thumb his nose at the federal government and go tell them to pound sand. And if you want to come into Texas, then we'll go to war. I would call all my National Guard down. I'd put it across the border in Texas and I would shut it down. Shut it down. And then I would dare Biden to come down and come into Texas. And guess what? I don't know if you've ever been to Texas or been around Texans. Great people, but god dang, man, they're arrogant and they believe Texas is like God's. It's a dust bowl, brother. Okay, let's just be honest, right? But they swear by it. And if you did that, you would have thousands, if not tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Texans with all of their rifles and long arms, literally coming there and militias and working for you. But you're half-assed. It's everything Abbott does. But that's what's happening. The federal government, our institution, Supreme Court, voted 5-4. One of them, all three of the crazy ass liberals voted for the liberal way they always do because they're mentally ill. And then Barrett, the female judge, that the last one that Trump selected, she went against it. And then, of course, the man that's completely compromised, and I will say this to the death, he is compromised, is Justice Roberts. Flops to the side and votes 5-4. And here we are. Now you have Border Patrol agents. I know these guys. They talk to me. They don't want to do anything. They're thankful that the National Guard's there with the barbed wire. They're thankful that they're stopping it. But the federal government is now going to remove all the concertina wire to allow the illegal aliens to come into America. You can't make this stuff up, dude.
It's so strange, right? Because I mean, even if you think that they're trying to give the appearance of caring, I mean, that's out the window now, right? Because this is obviously intentional at this point, right? Like what you just mentioned, right? Like this is.
Well, let's just look at the numbers, Jason. Just look at, okay, so something happened about 2 weeks ago that's going to change the numbers. But prior to this meeting between Mayorkas, Blinken, and the Mexican government, president, and their military, this happened 2 weeks ago. For the last 2 months in October, we haven't got the numbers for December. We're going to get them at the end of January. October numbers, 304,000. November numbers, 309,000 arrested. Okay. December, we believe the numbers are going to be closer to 350 to 360,000. All right, in 1 month. DHS has admitted that they release minimum 85% of everyone they catch. 85%. We know it in the business that it's closer to 96, 97%. Even if we did their numbers, even if we did 85%, they're already at a capacity. They've already surpassed 11 million arrests, right, in the 3 years. That's 9.35 million people that you released into America. Not talking about the other 10 to 12 million that cross undetected and absconded in America. You have 21 million people in America that are illegal aliens. This is mind-boggling. Now we have to talk about what this meeting was. This meeting was to curtail the crossings from Mexico. So Mexico now on their side is taking their military and they're bulldozing all these migrant camps and shelters and whatever the hell they have down there, and they're destroying them. And they're trying to get the number, which is now about 15 to 17,000 a day. A day, dude, a day. We're not talking about the northern border. If we count the northern border and the ports of entry, we're at about 20,000 a day that are being arrested and then released. Okay, 20,000 coming in every day, 18 and a half, 19,000 are released on the street. They're trying to bring that number down to 5. And guess when the end date on this is? The end of December 2024. Why? Why December? Well, that's because we're having our national election in 2024 in November. So they're cutting deals to make it look like they can handle it. So the very first question needs to be asked, if you can mitigate it from 15,000 to 5,000, that means you can mitigate it all the way and shut it down like it was. Why are you not shutting it down? And the ultimate, we can dance around theories and the way the policy's going and all that other crap. You have to understand that this is an intentional destruction of the American immigration system in order to fundamentally transform America. They've been telling you, the left and the crazy progressives have been telling you how bad America is, how bad Western nations is. All of our riches and success is ill-gotten gains from colonialism, slavery, oppression, white privilege, and all that other crap they spew. And the way they're going to change that is bringing in the masses of humanity and moving you out. Look, this is no longer an issue of, well, this is what you think. No. This is a simple math problem now, Jason. You cannot bring in 20 to 25 to 30 million people in a 3 to 4 year period and think that you do not have demographic change. You can't even argue that with me. You have to agree that there will be demographic change. This is just simple math, right? And then you take the fertility rates of Americans are now at about 1.7. We've even gone lower. We're not even replacing. And then you bring in fertility rates of illegal aliens that are 3, 5, 6 times that. Just do the math, man. We have 50 million. This is a conservative number. Everybody agrees, all the politicians, the census, everyone agrees. We have 50 million people in America, residing in America, that are foreign nationals. 40 plus million of them are illegal aliens. 40 plus million are illegal aliens in America. That means you have a 1 in 6 to 6.5 people are legal aliens. Name me a society, a civilization throughout mankind that sustained that. No, you can't. They all crumbled. Rome was the last one. The great Roman Empire imploded because of all of the foreign nationals inside their walls, and they didn't have allegiance to Rome, and they didn't believe in Rome's greatness. These people that we're bringing across, Jason, it has already been proven. 50% of everybody that crosses the border are illiterate in their own language. Now, you explain to me, I was on a podcast that was kind of debate driven with a gentleman that wrote for the Atlantic and Bloomberg and all this other stuff. Absolute, what you would think a soft liberal would look like. And we just had this discussion, and it was about his feelings. And they don't care. The liberals don't care. They in their mind actually don't believe they're going to be affected by any of this. They actually do. It was a great way, a window to look into the soul of a progressive leftist that will never be able to, when they come in from that man from Yemen that came across the border and kicks in his door and says, "This is my house," and he's going to say, "Yes, sir. What can I make you for lunch, sir?" That's the type of man he is, where I would go, "Oh yeah," and I'd cave his skull in and keep his corpse outside my front door so all the other illegals know that we don't go to this guy's house. But it gave me a glimpse into the mind of a crazed liberal. As long as it doesn't affect him, he's okay with it. He's from San Francisco, and he told me, "Well, I don't really see the effects of it in San Francisco." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And sure enough, right after I got out the video, a article popped up. Overdose deaths in San Francisco shatters the records from all the years combined. And I'm like, you can't even you leftists can't even connect the dots. You think you're getting power because you're bringing in voters and you're going to have this power. You're losing your country. Mm-hmm. We are all going to live in America, the United States of America, but it will no longer be that United States of America. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be violent, and it's going to be in your face. And they're going to attack the soft and the low-hanging fruit in America. And that low-hanging fruit ain't me. It's you, doughboy. They're going to come for you and your family. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to do nothing.
Mhm.
I'm going to do absolutely nothing because, and you may say whatever you want about me about this, but I want, this is a glimpse into the mind of the American man now, not
Mhm.
the American that has the man bun and doesn't know what gender is. I'm talking about the old school American man. We're circling the wagons and we're going to take care of our immediate family and our immediate friends that are like-minded, and everyone else can go to hell.
Mm.
And that's what's happening in America. And you're seeing an incredible divide in America, and it's real. You can feel it. People are talking about Black Swan event. What's going to happen? People are talking about Donald Trump being assassinated. Eric Soros, the son of the sick George Soros, actually put out a tweet with a bullet hole in a window and somebody holding $47, meaning assassinate the president. These are crazy times in America. Crazy.
That is so wild. You know, I yeah, I you know, you said the word treason earlier, and I've been thinking about that word quite a bit lately, right? Because, you know, in our day, in our era, hyperbole is king, and you see that word treason get
Mhm.
thrown around a lot, right? Like people kind of jump to that conclusion on just about everything on both
Right.
sides, right? Trump is
Right.
treasonous, Biden is treasonous, but
Yeah.
you know, what we're seeing, you know, in both Canada and the United States, I mean, I think by classical definition is actually treason, right? I mean, we just had the World Economic Forum summit,
Mhm.
and it's that's a conference where elected officials go into closed door meetings with, you know, leaders in industry and non-government organizations and discuss policy. That is treason by definition, right? By the
Yes.
by what, in the way that it was intended by the founders of our democracies and our republics, right? And so I feel like we're in this place where it's like, you know, our federal governments can break the law and desecrate our constitutions over and over and over again, and they've done it so many times and to such a degree that it's not a big deal anymore, right? And that's where we
Yes.
are. We've reached this point where it's like, oh, they're not following the laws and decrees that were set, you know, decades before them. But who's going to say anything different, right? And who's what are we going to do to stop it? It's like we have actually reached the point of, I feel like the last stage before that turnkey totalitarianism is finally installed, and we you know we no longer have a say in anything anymore because our governments don't adhere to our Supreme Court. They don't adhere to,
Mhm.
you know, these bodies that were established in order to keep them in check, right? And
Yeah.
so, you know, I want to talk to you about Chicago because I've been seeing a lot going on in Chicago, and to me it's just so exemplary of the way that I don't even call these people liberals because they're not. They're neoliberals. And what neoliberals are is they're just repackaged neoconservatives, in my opinion, right?
Mhm.
They're the same. It's the same fucking grotesque group that we saw light the world on fire after 9/11. They've just rebranded themselves, right? And
Right.
the same attitude that we saw, or the same, well, lawlessness and complete disregard for human life that we saw come out of the Bush Cheney regime is the same thing that we're seeing happen with this Biden administration and the Trudeau government here in Canada, right? And you know, in Chicago, you have millions of immigrants who are being shuttled into the south side of Chicago and then just left there. And for our viewers who may not be aware, the south side of Chicago is a predominantly black part of Chicago, notoriously poor and violent. And that's where
Mhm.
they're taking these people. And it's just, to me, it's just, yeah, that's today's Democrats, like just
Mhm.
pure and simple, right? Like that's what they do. They're all about diversity, equity, and inclusion as long as it benefits them. And as soon as they have millions of people who don't speak the language and you don't know who they are, they're not bringing them into their own neighborhoods. They're throwing them into the poor black neighborhoods and leaving it up to these people to deal with. Can you comment on that situation that's unfolding in Chicago? Maybe provide some insight on it.
Yes. Chicago is a famous sanctuary city. And they, for years, were unaffected by the border, right? Just unaffected. It's too far, it's too cold, blah, blah, blah. And they pontificated to people like myself that lived on a border state, California, pontificated that they were so welcoming. We'll take everybody because we're America and diversity is king. And all of a sudden, they started showing up about 18 months ago. And all hell has been breaking loose. First is Lori Lightfoot, who looked like Beetlejuice from the movie, that disgusting individual. And she didn't know what to do. Now you have a guy, I thought she was grotesquely ignorant and borderline stupid. The new guy, Johnson, is a complete sophomore bonehead. He's actually been hospitalized because of the stress. I don't know if people know that. Hospitalized from panic attacks. Okay. Well, why is the panic why is he going so crazy? Well, you don't have millions. You don't even have hundreds of thousands. You have tens of thousands of illegal aliens now residing in Chicago. Not the 21 million that I told you about. They're scattered across America. But Sanctuary Chicago has tens of thousands, and it's brought you to your knees. The citizens of Chicago, in a way, I just say, tough shit. You eat it, buddy. You made it. You pontificated. You talked about how bad we are. You wanted diversity. You voted in all those savages that run your city council, your aldermen, and you've been dominated the Democrat-run city from 1913. 1913, over 100 years, all Democrats, and you're a sanctuary city. So they have thousands of people. They have nowhere to put them. They have them sheltered in O'Hare Airport, in the terminal. They say, Tucker Carlson just did a video and put his crew in there. And they said the smell is so grotesque because you have hundreds of people living, going to the bathroom, not be able to shower for days, weeks on end, eating food where they live, all food's everywhere, no one's cleaning it up. Now you have them living, you won't believe this, they're living in the police stations in Chicago. The police have nowhere to work. They can't sleep outside because it's below zero outside with the wind. It's the quote windy city. Now the illegal aliens, because they can't work because Joe Biden has bastardized parole and asylum and don't give them work authorization, they can't work anyway. So what have they have gone to? Crime is skyrocketing. Chicago is already a death zone. There's more shootings and killings and rapes than there are in Afghanistan and Syria and Yemen every year combined in the war zone of Chicago. So what's happening now? Now they're having huge shoplifting rings, not individuals going, rings of illegal aliens have come together and they're just like locusts ransacking Chicago. Chicago deserves everything they get. However, I watch they call them aldermen, like city councilmen. I see their press conferences and the people, especially there's two groups of people in Chicago that have absolutely lost their mind: the Black community and the Asian community. One video shows the Asian community encircling the alderman on the street and pushing her, and rattled her so much she started going, no, we can't do this anymore. I'm voting against this. The Black community is losing their mind because they just built or are building a $22 million tent to house illegal aliens. 22 million? Has anybody looked at South Side of Chicago?
That's right.
It's a war zone. What about, and rightfully so, these parents are saying, we have our kids living on the street that are strung out on drugs. We have nowhere to put them. Look, you and I can argue about homelessness and drugs and all that and who's got responsible. But I'm going to always fall on the side of taking care of American citizens before I'm going to take all my money and supplies and help foreign nationals that broke our law. Think of how insane this is. Chicago is taking all of their funds, funnel it to illegal aliens, and they're telling all of their citizens, go to hell. Go to hell. You're going to freeze your ass off? Go freeze your ass off. I don't care. Your son's dying on the street because he's hooked on trank and fentanyl. I don't care. Well, where the hell's that trank and that fentanyl coming from, people? coming
Yeah.
straight from the border.
Yeah.
Everything that's happening in Chicago, New York, they're like epicenters of everything that's happening. But, Jason, and I've been saying this for months, we are seeing a saturation point in the major cities. And we're seeing Chicago's now busing people out. I want to say it's Winfield, 40 miles to the west. Winfield has less than 10,000 people. They put 1,000 Venezuelans in their town. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of another small town, Whitewater, Wisconsin, 15,000 people. Oh, Biden shipped over 1,000 nationals from Venezuela and Nicaragua. The chief of police and the mayor, or the equivalent of the city manager, wrote a letter, and they published it, wrote a letter to Biden saying, you got it. You can't do this anymore. You got to give us money and resources. We're seeing crimes that we have never seen. 15,000 people, over 1,000 foreigners. They're seeing rapes, kidnappings, sexual assaults, minor children living in squalor and being sexually abused. The chief of police said, we've never seen this ever. And he gave an example. In 2008 to 2022, they had like 2,400 vehicle stops, meaning the police stopped someone and speeding, unlicensed, drunk driving, whatever. You have drugs. They're already at 2,000 in less than 1 year. They say we can't. The crime has skyrocketed. They can't do anything about it. So my point is, this is no longer Chicago and New York. This is now America. Small town Americana, picket fence, trying to get a job, make a living, making $40,000, $45,000 a year. Now, you are going to see people leave these towns, and they're going to become major slums. These small little pockets of America are going to be slums where only Nigerians go live, and the other ones only Venezuelans and only Haitians. Because here's the dirty little secret nobody wants to talk about. Everybody thinks diversity is kumbaya. I watched it. I ran a station. I had to have certain cells cordoned off because those Haitians wanted to kill the Cubans. The Guatemalans hated the Hondurans. The Indian nationals, no one liked them because they're weird, and they all were fighting. So if you think they're all, so you have 180 nations represented in arrest data in the Border Patrol. So you have 180 tribes. Think of it as tribes, all fighting for scraps. And when those scraps run out, Jason, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think the vast majority of military-age men, do you think those men that are hungry, tired, depressed, resentful, angry, haven't had sex in months? Where's their outlet? Their outlet is America. And they are going to turn their anger toward us, and it's going to be a bloodbath. I don't have to theoretically think of this. I just have to look at Europe. It's on fire. And it's going to happen here in America. And it's going to happen in your nation too.
Oh, it's already happening. I mean, it's immigration is such a difficult subject to tackle, right? Because it's like, I think you and I have talked about this before, but it's like the moment you share an opinion that is against, it makes you sound like you're, a racist and you just don't want anybody else in America other than, and that's the way the Democrats constantly frame it is, well, sorry, white privileged, middle class white American, you're going to have to share this land with other people. You're an immigrant too, blah, 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 blah. But this is the thing. This is a real problem. You see, the reason I referenced Chicago, I saw a video the other day with some of the community leaders in Southside Chicago, and they're already shuttling some of these immigrants into Chicago, into empty buildings and churches and this and that. And these guys are saying, like, we can't deal with this. Like you're taking a boiling pot and you're adding water to it. Right. That's what one of the community leaders was saying. He was like, we already have out of control violence. We have a drug war and a gang war that has been raging for years that we can't get under control. Now you're going to add all of these people, specifically MS-13 gangbangers and things like that into the mix, you are creating a scenario where it's going to be all-out war. That's where we are going here. And now you're not just going to have gangs killing each other, young black men dead in the streets, that a problem that the federal government could give a fuck less about. Same goes for the state government too, right? They don't give a fuck about these kids. But now they're adding an additional challenge to the community, right? Where now you have a bunch of people who aren't from the country, who have just arrived, who are being mixed in with all this. And it's so disgusting to me as somebody who's originally from the left, right? That's why whenever people refer to these people as liberals, I always shake my head and go, these are not liberals. I'm a liberal. You know what I mean? Like these people are globalist, tyrannical, neo-Marxist, neoliberal thinkers. That's the way they are. They are fucking cult members. They are not rational human beings. Look, you were saying earlier that they're trying to get it down to 5,000 people a day. At this point, they need to realize it has to be 0 people per day.
0. Well, here's the thing. You said something that's very important. And let me tell you how I deal with the crazy left, is they want to conflate legal immigration with illegal immigration. So the way I always start a debate is I always tell them, okay, just so we're clear, we're not talking about legal immigration. I love legal immigration. In fact, we could have a robust discussion on, do we need more, same, less, whatever. You and I are discussing illegal immigration. And that puts them on their heels right away, because I'm saying, and I do, some of the most patriotic Americans are naturalized citizens because they have come from the shit of the world and have come here and go, oh my God, I can make money and nobody's going to steal it. And if they do, there's repercussions, there's law and order, and there's clean streets. I love America. I'm so glad to be American. I'm not talking about them. So now you and me, let's have a talk about 10 million, 11 million people crossing the border under Joe Biden that's been arrested. Tell me how that's good for America. Go. And there's always silence because they have this is their feelings. I don't give a shit about your feelings, you jackass. I want my country to have a sovereign nation. In order to be a sovereign nation, you have to have borders. You and I want to have a discussion about more legal immigration. Good. Let's have a nice discussion. Send our representatives to the halls of Congress and they debate it for us. And then we come up with another number. Whatever that number is, I abide by it. Is it 2? We're at 1.2 million now. Is it 10 million, 4 million, whatever it is? But what are you going to do about everyone else? You jackass, you can't just let people in. That's the deal. Now you talk about Chicago and you talk about this combustible situation. The violence in Chicago is brutal. However, the audience must understand the savages, and I call them savages, that are coming across the border. The violence they do in Chicago is child's play. MS-13 is going to come over and they're not going to shoot you. They're going to take a machete and they're going to machete and hack your body to death. That's how they like to kill people. Mexican drug cartels like to come over and they like to get rid of their bodies. So they hire people to create soups and they submerge the body and they cook them and make them into soup. So there's no more pieces, no bones, nothing. That's what is coming into our world. You're also bringing in Russian mafia. You're going to bring in people from the Middle East, terrorists. You think they're going to flinch at a bunch of gang members in Chicago flashing gang signs? No, they'll just throw a bomb there and blow your building up. It's happening. This idea that America is tough. America's never seen shit that's come from these countries. I arrested these people. I know exactly who they are. I know, I look at their eyes. I know, I smell them. I lived with them. And I'm telling you, America has allowed the enemy to get inside our walls by the millions. And we are going to pay a major, major price that is going to be pain and violence and suffering that we've never experienced before. And it's coming. I hope I'm wrong, but I know I'm not. I know I'm not.
Yeah, I think your assessment is correct. You know, it's like You can listen to JJ talk and think that he's an alarmist or that he's being hyperbolic, but the truth is you're talking millions of people. I mean,
Mhm.
millions, when you say the word millions, doesn't sound that big, right? But when you're talking 10 Cowboy stadiums full of people, right? 20, 30, 40 Dallas Cowboy stadiums full of people, that's a lot. And all it
Let's
takes.
put it, yep, let's put numbers in, and I'm glad you said that. So we just had the Rose Bowl, the giant Rose Bowl in Pasadena, right? It was
Mhm.
Michigan versus Alabama, 100,000 people. Okay. I'm just using DHS data. Not going to use getaways. 20,000 people a day.
Mhm.
Every 5 days, the Rose Bowl is filled. And when the clock strikes 12 on that fifth day, I open up the northern gates of that stadium and 100,000 people flood into America. And at the same time, I open my southern gate and I bring in 20,000 a day for another 5 days. And I fill the Rose Bowl at capacity. And then the fifth day, I do it all over again.
Mhm.
Every 5 days, I take, if you're from the Northeast and you like Michigan, take the big house with Michigan football, 100,000 people. Every 5 days, I fill up the Michigan Stadium with 180 nations across the globe, terrorists, special interest aliens, criminals, soldiers, sexual predators, everything you can imagine, 100,000. And then I release them. And then I fill up another stadium in 5 days, dude. And I do it all over again. That's what we're talking about.
Mhm.
You may say I'm an alarmist. And my rebuttal to that is, if you do not believe what I'm saying, meaning what I believe the outcome is, but we agree on the data because the data is it's data. It's
Mhm.
just what it is. The government has put it out. This is what it is. I don't agree with it. I think it's very, very conservative, but let's just use it. So my rebuttal to everyone that challenged me on that, okay, they've allowed in 11 million people, 9.35 million per their 85% release rate. Tell me how almost 10 million people that come into America that don't speak the language, don't know the culture, don't have the same cultural norms as us, and religious feelings, anything, nothing close to us, illiterate in their own language, have a third grade education. Now, explain to me how 10 million of those are going to benefit America. Go.
Mhm.
And literally, we sit here and we stare at each other. As you know, as a podcaster, a very successful podcaster, you know, dead time, dead air is horrible. Now, you can imagine 10, 15 seconds of people just staring at each other. And I don't even try to break the ice, I just look at them. Come on. The ball's in your court. Tell me how that benefits America. You say I'm hyperbolic. You say that I'm dramatic. Okay, well, tell me. Tell me how that looks. What does that manifest? I've already told you, look at Chicago, New York, and all. I already named 5 or 6 small towns and 5 or 6 major cities. I've already demonstrated to you that it's happening. Now you need to demonstrate to me and articulate to me how I'm wrong. Go. And we
Mhm.
just sit here in silence because what I'm saying is honest and true. I don't care about your feelings. I don't care where you come from, what you look like. I don't give a shit about any of that. I got a family that I'm taking care of. I busted my ass down the border for 24 years. I fucking know what's going on. Don't try to tell me what the hell's going on the border and how it has no effect on America. I lived it.
Mhm.
I lived it. If I want to know what's happening in Ukraine, I'm not going to come on here and be the expert on Ukraine. I have a good idea what's going on, but I'm not the expert. I'm going to listen to retired Colonel McGregor or someone like that. But if I come tell you, hey, this guy has been in the Border Patrol for 24 years, he rose up to the higher ranks, he knows exactly what's going on. No, 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 no. That guy's full of crap. I'm not listening to him. He's white and he's angry. I'm not going to listen to him.
Mhm.
Good. Don't listen to me. It's at your peril.
Mhm. Yeah, and exactly the way you just capped that off is exactly it. It's that you were there, you've seen it, you've been there, and the sheer volume of people that are coming across, like, I think it's hard for people to understand or to really process how many people it really is, right? Because like people think about, JJ Carroll down on the southern border, right? It's a group of 12 or 15 migrants, coming across the canal, and you know what I mean? You see them on night vision or whatever.
Mhm.
But we're talking tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. This is
Mhm.
a lot of fucking people. And all it takes is a handful to throw the entire country into a complete tailspin, right? I'm talking
Mhm.
in terms of violence, right? And terrorist attacks, or even just gang violence in a small town. All it takes is a few, right? All it takes is a couple of pressure cooker bombs to go off, and America is in a serious state of emergency, a real state of emergency. You know what I mean? And so,
Well, let's look at this. Okay, you made a great point. And I always used to okay, US government after FY 2023 was just ended in October, okay? Excuse me, in September. Because the fiscal year in the US starts October 1st and ends January 31st. September 31st. So they came out and they said, we have arrested over 105,000 special interest aliens, okay? They've released them all, okay? In 24 years, I arrested directly or indirectly, which is over 10, 20,000 people. I arrested less than 5 special interest aliens and I released none. Let's just make that number for easy math, 100,000 special interest aliens. Special interest aliens are individuals that come from terrorist nations or travel through terrorist nations. They have a tie to terrorism, one way or the other. Low-level messengers, high-level recruiters, whatever the hell, somewhere in between. 100,000. Let's assume that you were right in that I'm dramatic, I overstate it, I am hyperbolic, I'm just an angry, pissed off white guy, federal employee. Okay, let's just say that's all true. Let's say that you're 99% true about what I believe. That leaves 1,000 terrorists. Are you okay with 1,000 terrorists being in America?
mm-hmm.
I think that's a fair question. And the left can never answer that. I know that I'm not wrong. I know that it's 105,000, not counting the absconded, just off of their data, 105,000. My former colleagues have sent me pictures of all these people that they've arrested. I don't get fearful hardly ever, but it makes me pause, my friend, because I see those pictures and I look at them and my buddies send me that and they say, JJ, I just released these 5 people and I know they're terrorists. I know it in my bones. I know it. And I'm looking at the pictures and I'm saying, yep, I would bet a month's salary that they're going to blow something up in America. But they're just one person out of hundreds of thousands of terrorists and special interest alien in our country. It's indisputable. You don't like what I say, you don't like how my hair is, whatever. Well, let's listen to Christopher Wray, the director of FBI, who was under oath 3 weeks ago with that traitor Mayorkas. And Christopher Wray said, and I will quote it as close as I can. Christopher Wray said, I have never seen in my career this high level of probable bad issues coming, meaning I have never seen the threat level this high across the spectrum ever. So is he being dramatic, the FBI director? Is he telling you the truth, or is he lying too?
Yeah.
FBI director said he's never seen the threat this high and this broad before. And the follow-up question, if anyone ever goes back and looks at his testimony, they ask him, do you know where all the terrorists are that have crossed the border? And his answer was, no, I don't know where they all are. There's too many. How many FBI agents are there? 10,000? 12,000? Maybe? There's millions of special interest aliens. There's tens of thousands of terrorists. How are they gonna monitor that? They don't even. Mohammed from Yemen is not going to self-admit and put himself on the FBI terrorist watch list. He's going to fly under the radar, come into America, meet all of his other Yemenis homies, and they're going to get their little cell together. And they're going to be walled off from all the other cells. And they're going to have a specific mission that I'm going to go blow up X, Y, and Z. And nobody else knows except the 5 to 10 guys that are in my cell. That's how it's going to go down, Jason. That's how we're going to get hit. We're not going to get hit by waves of battalions. We're going to get hit by small cells in America. And we're going to have a podcast. You're going to call me back in a couple months by the end of 2024, and you're going to say, man, you were right, dude. Look at what happened. And everyone's going to say, well, we just had a video come out. I don't know if you saw it. It went viral. And I know we got to go, but it went viral. And it's a man. Now they're claiming that he is an Islamic terrorist and he was on the border and a reporter was filming him down. I want to say it's Arizona. This was just happened yesterday. And he speaks perfect English. And the guy says, you don't know who I am? Well, you're about to find out who I am. And he's a Middle Eastern man. And it looks like he's from Azerbaijan, from the Islamic Azerbaijan group. You don't have to listen to me. You don't have to agree with anything. But all I ask is when it all goes down, at least give me the credit for at least being the sole voice that's come out to set it. That's all I ask.
Yeah. And I really, dude, I feel like we just started. I want to have you back on like right away.
Absolutely. You call me back. I think your podcast is great. I love it. I love how you give me an open door and freedom to speak clearly. I think this is the new medium. I think media is dead. I think podcast is where you get your information. At least that's where I get all my information now.
Yeah.
If I want to know about something, I listen to the expert. I don't need Sean Hannity to articulate it for me, right? Or Rachel Maddow to interpret what the hell's going on.
Or
I'm
better,
a smart guy. I figured out.
Or better yet, the organizations that provide their scripts for them, who have, who have vested interests. And, this at least to me is, like talking to you is going direct to the source. And I wish I wasn't losing my light in this room. For people who are watching, I'm slowly fading into darkness because we started and it was big and bright. So I blocked out the light and now it's coming back to bite me. But JJ, dude, I said this to Brian and I'll say it to you, man. It's an honor to call you a friend. And I'm so glad that you and I are able to do this, man, because, you're a guy who's lived it. You're a guy who's been there. You're an expert on this subject. And, there's just so much confusion around this. And of course, there's so much ideological red tape because the moment you start talking about it, race becomes the focal point. And, this isn't about race. This isn't about nationality. This is about real threats entering your country and real threats, that are going to, in the very near future, brush up against your family and your children and your neighbors and your community, right? And so that's what this is about. It has nothing to do with skin color. And for people watching this, I want to be clear on that. Like, this is not about skin color. This is not about, don't let in the brown people. It's don't let in the fucking psychopaths. And out of millions upon millions of people, you're guaranteed to get a few. And all it takes is a few. And nobody is bothering to check who any of these people are. And when they do, they're realizing, as you mentioned, that a lot of these people are special interest aliens, that a lot of these people are people that the American government under Trump or really any president prior would never let these people into the country.
Nope.
And now they're there.
Not even Obama.
Right.
Think of that.
Right.
Not even Obama.
So
and it's not about race. And you're right. And last point, it's not about race. There's 180 nationalities. That means every skin tone you can imagine, every religion, every category, however you want to categorize people, you can't pigeonhole. 70% of everyone arrested is other than Mexican. So all that you're a racist bullshit, you're just an ignorant fool because you don't even know the data. I'm not talking about any race. I'm talking about the sovereignty of America. That's it.
That's right.
Illegal immigration is illegal. So what are we going to do about it? We're going to do nothing? Well, there's repercussions when you do nothing against illegal crime and activity.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Look, this is the reality. You let hundreds of thousands of people into your country. You don't give them work permits. They're going to have to resort to doing something to feed themselves. You're creating a scenario where these people are going to commit crimes. These people are going to commit robberies for the simple sake of survival, right? It's just what it is. And, maybe in our next conversation, we can go a little bit deeper as to why this is happening and the motivations behind it. And this is more than just importing votes, in my opinion. This has to do with a calculated, strategic effort to end the republic and to end the American empire, I believe. And I believe it's coming from China. That's my personal belief. But I am slowly fading into black here. So JJ, well, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me at jjcarrell.com. I have my book Invaded on Amazon, and I have a podcast with my co-host Brian O'Shea, Unrestricted Invasion. You can find that at dailyclout.io, or just type it into Rumble and find it there. Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it, brother.
Oh, dude, always, man, always. I'd talk to you and Brian every single day if I could. Stick around after we're done here, and we'll say our goodbyes privately. But yeah, man, for everybody out there who want to learn more about this scenario, please follow JJ on X. Listen to the Unrestricted Invasion podcast. It's I'm surprised I was even able to book you, JJ. He's been on every major TV show with his hair gelled, and I don't get the suit and tie treatment on my show.
No, you don't. You get the black T-shirt, and be lucky you get that. But
you're getting too big for me, man. But yeah, I really recommend that everybody follow JJ. Go look up JJ's interviews. He is so educated and so insightful on this subject, and he's passionate, and I think he's passionate for a reason. So once again, brother, thank you so much for your time again, man. This was awesome.
Great. Thanks a lot, man. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.